Well, welcome, Nature Coast. Well, welcome. No, you're supposed to say, welcome, Pastor Sean. That's good, because you're already at home. I do feel like I'm at home, and what's really cool is that we are broadcasting into both churches today. Mally and I are launching into a sort of a new era called Beach Baptist Online. So our church is having to go online and then small in-person down on Fort Myers Beach. Lots of changes going on down there with FEMA and stuff like that, so we've lost our building. So we're no longer able to meet in person in a particular worship service area. So they're moving to a hotel in about 3 weeks, and they'll start just doing on-site services and things like that. And so we're going to take over the online stuff, and Pastor Brad has been gracious enough to let us broadcast from here. And then going forward, we may broadcast, come in and do a service, offline or whatever, and then send it up. We're working that out. But today, you and Nature Coast are sitting in. Your Nature Coast Online and Beach Baptist Online are all worshiping together. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. We like it. We like it. We like it. Today, we're going to ask you a couple questions. Hopefully change your world, change your life. I don't know. I think that's my job. Sure. We're going to talk a little bit about job. How many of you all have ever questioned what's God's will? Just two of you. All right, we'll just talk over here. No. Nobody's ever, try again. I'm more participatory, and I usually just wait until you start to participate before I move on. And it's okay if you've never asked what's God's will for my life. That's fine, but we'll get there. So how many of you all have ever asked what's God's will? Right? You search for God's will. Absolutely. And I think if I give you enough time, everybody's hands will come up. Some of us are slow getting them up there, but that's okay. Happy Feet, I really needed you during the song because I enjoy watching you worship, and Sherry Ann was doing it, but I needed more help. What is she doing? You've already had your stage time. Don't be getting on Facebook. How many of y'all have your Bibles with you? Online? Absolutely, absolutely. Got some in paper. I like to hear that flip, but I also like to see that tap. Just get over there. So I don't know if you ever used YouVersion before. If you don't have a Bible app, I suggest YouVersion. It's called Bible.com or however you want to look it up, but the app's on there. Every language you can possibly imagine is on there. Many Bible studies. It's really cool. I suggest that you use it today if you want to. If you're not, you can just Bible.com. I encourage you using your phone while we're in here talking, as long as you're taking notes. Don't be texting back and forth. But the will of God is a weird little thing. I'm not gonna lie, because you and I search for it. We seek it. We ask about it. We ask ourselves questions. Am I in the will of God? What is the will of God for my life? Sherry Ann and I have been doing that since Hurricane Ian. What's the will of God? And typically what we mean is, what are we supposed to be doing? Right? How many of you all needed to switch jobs, and so you looked for the will of God in the finding of the job? Okay, nobody. How many of you all are retired? Okay, should have switched. So I guess, how many of you all are single? How many of you are ready to mingle? Okay, so just a couple, okay. Rest of them are like single, been there, done that, ain't doing it again. But when you're single, you look for the will of God in your mate, right? Is this the person I'm supposed to marry, right? Anybody, y'all did that? Or did y'all just like roll some dice? Different parts of the country do different things. It's okay. Well, how about where you're supposed to live? How many of you all have recently, or at least in the past 5 years, bought a house or just moved into a different house, right? How many of you all were like, I wonder if this is God's will that this is my house? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, all right. See, we search for God's will in the things that we do. We want to know that we're in God's will in the stuff that we have, the things we buy. Anybody ever look for God's will when you're purchasing stuff? Heavens no. Absolutely not. You just buy it and go, God wanted me to have that, right? You ever walked into a thrift store and there it was, and you're like, that's God right there. I got to have it. I'm married to her. That's how it works. But should I go there? Should I do this? Should I do that? I'm going to pray about it. But we overthink every single option when it comes to God's will. Especially, watch this, you believe it's God's will, but you don't like it. And so you will encourage yourself to find a way to not make it God's will. And you're like, well, the neighbors, though, God wouldn't want me living next to those people. Right? Or look at that neighbor's house. They never mow the yard. I got a rep to, I'm a good steward of my yard. Right? Or I can't work there. I mean, they work on Sundays. God would never, ever want me to work on Sundays. Anybody else ever worked on Sundays? Yeah, heathens going to hell? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm working right now. I used to do that all the time. I'd be like, well, can I go home? You know what the church said? You're not working, you were called. But I didn't want to take the wrong job. I didn't want to make the wrong decision. I didn't want to marry the wrong person, right? Nobody wants to do that. So we analyze and we have angst over it and we just pray. We seek God. Have you ever said that to somebody? I am seeking God in this. If I'm supposed to buy that house, if I'm supposed to take that job. And that's okay. I mean, that's okay that you should ask about every single decision you make. Absolutely. But I don't want to shock you too much, but that's not the will of God. That's not how the will of God necessarily works. And this, I'm not just making stuff up. We're going to open that Bible I told you about here in a second. We're going to look at it. A few weeks ago, I preached a sermon talking about the multiple wills of God that there are. There's God's sovereign will. That's the one that nobody can touch. Started in the beginning, will end at the end. You can't fix it, can't change it, can't manipulate it, can't ask God to move around it. Nope, it's God's sovereign will. And then we have God's moral will. It's the way you're supposed to live. It's the way you're supposed to act. It's just the way you're supposed to be. You can't change that will. It's written down in the book. You can manipulate it all you want, but you're going to be out of it when you don't act within it. That's moral will. There's God's permissive will. You ever seen stuff that happens in the world and you're like, well, I don't think that shouldn't have happened. Right? God should not have allowed that to happen. Yeah? Well, guess what? That's called God's permissive will. God's permissive will works alongside your free will. You and I are free to be stupid. You and I take that will and we run with it. Now, God's permissive will runs alongside of us. And he allows certain things to happen within our stupidity. Because you and I will make some pretty stupid decisions, won't we? Yeah. You ever been on Facebook? No, should I even ask? And you're like, I'm gonna, and you type it out. And then you're like, but I'm not gonna hit send. Yes, I am. Right? Like you almost had it. I mean, you were almost there. You were almost. And so God's will is multifaceted. Some of it we have some leeway in, but it's still his will. Did you ever notice that none of those were what you were doing, where you were living, who you were married to? Sovereign will, permissive will, moral will. There's another one I can't remember. But none of those have anything to do with your stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean not just the stuff that you have, but the stuff that you do, the stuff that you say, the stuff that you are, those things, that's anything that's tangible, that's not listed in any of the God's wills. You ever heard that phrase where God works everything together for the good of those who love him? See all those things and are called to his what? According to his purpose. Absolutely. You got some good Bible stuff going on. Yeah, that's what he says. So he takes all of our stupidity, even some of our good stuff, well, say all of our good stuff, and he works it together within his sovereign will. Sovereign will. How about his moral will? You think he works stuff together for his good inside of it, outside of his moral will? Go ahead, you can say it. No. See, God's morality doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. What he said was bad back then is bad right now. So you and I can act within his permissive will and break his moral will. Guess what? You're out of his will. It's just one of his wills. Now, how many of you believe as soon as you break one of those wills, he thumps you on the head? Huh? I used to think that. I literally used to believe that I would get out of line and God would smack me back in line, right? I would do something, he'd be wrong, and he'd smack me back over here, and then I would try to stay in it, right? And it's that narrow path, right? I'm trying to stay on the narrow path, but what would happen, I was like a bowling ball with bumpers, right? That's how I stayed on God's path. But God was the bumpers. Guess what? You can't find that in the book. I made that up. He doesn't do that. His permissive will is the lane. His sovereign will is the bumpers. You're never getting outside of the bumpers. Now, I am so bad at bowling, I probably could get over a bumper. Probably. But not in God's sovereign will. That's not going to happen. Because God's sovereign will doesn't change. Moral will. Man, it's straight. It is straight. And I would try to get around it. But never, ever, ever does it look like the stuff we are, the stuff we do, the stuff we think, the things we say. That's not God's will. So what governs all that? I just want to kind of uncomplicate this for a little bit, because I hope what I've done is I've made it a little complicated, and then we're going to unpack it a little bit, bring you along in this path, and then we'll see where it takes you. Because by the end of this, I want you to be able to ask the question, where am I not in God's will? And it have nothing to do with the things we talked about already. So let's stop overcomplicating his will. Because I don't want to keep obsessing over major life moves with these little thoughts to the daily chores that shape who we actually become. That's not godly living. See, the things we say, I'll spend some time on Facebook. See, the things we say on Facebook, a lot of times are stupid, a lot of times not godly, but that's not being out of God's will. You are out of God's will, but that's not why. See, we got to go all the way back. I started nursing school. I was a pastor for 21 years, still am. But I started nursing school. And what I found is you can treat symptoms all you want. But if you don't find out what's causing it, if you don't start treating that problem, it's just going to keep going. And you're just masking it. And you're just existing. Have you ever thought you're just existing in life? Kind of like purposelessness. Like you're just hanging, and it could be to your job. It could be where you're living. It could be where you're married. Anybody married to a deadbeat? You was? It happened? Oh, no. I thought you said I was. I was like, we getting real up in here. No. Yeah, I wouldn't raise your hand either. I understand. But just think about it. You're married to a deadbeat. You're dating a deadbeat. I don't know. Did you say your wife? You cannot say those things out loud. I know. I haven't been with y'all long enough to know when it's rhetorical. It's okay. Just go weird. Let's go crazy. Let's jump over to the book. How about that? Matthew 6:34. Because you and I spend so much time worrying about what we're doing, where we're going, all those things. We worry about that stuff. And yet the Bible tells you, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. For tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. You've heard that before, right? I mean, it's like a really common verse. It's been there forever. You should have read it. Now, how many of y'all now don't worry about tomorrow? I mean, it's in there. I mean, you just live for today. Not many of us. I like to think I do, but we don't. I plan tomorrow. I can prove it. Just pull out your calendar. If you've got something on your calendar for tomorrow, you've planned for tomorrow. You've worried about what time it's going to be the meeting at. And we've got to have some of that here on the planet. But how does that pertain to God's will? We'll get there. Look at James 4:13. He says, I did not give her these ahead of time, so she's jumping ahead. Now listen, you who say, I'm going to plan my future, you who say today or tomorrow we'll do this, go to this city, that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. He says, why? You don't even know what will happen tomorrow. Tomorrow's not even a guarantee. How do you balance that with living? How about you call your job when we leave here today and say, you know what, I'll tell you tomorrow if I'm coming. What do you think they're going to tell you? They're going to say, don't worry about tomorrow. Right? How do you balance that? Because I'm not supposed to worry about it yet. I got a plan for it. I got to live in this stuff. See, if we believe it's God's will, then we're going to plan for tomorrow because he gave us the job and we're going to show up. If we believe it's God's will, then we're going to take care of that house that we decided to buy. If we believe that, then we're just going to put all everything. And then something's going to happen. Here's the problem. Something's going to happen. That company you're working for, they're going to go belly up. That house you're living in, going to catch on fire. That person you love dearly because you believe that's God's will, they're going to die. And all of a sudden, the rug's been ripped out from under you, and you're left with nothing. Because when you believe it's God's will, and then something happens to what you believe is God's will, you don't know what to do. You are what the world calls hopeless. Some of this I'm preaching from experience. Because, see, I thought it was God's will to pastor a church on Fort Myers Beach. And when I got there, we sort of started that church. And then I said, I'm going to be different. I'm staying here till I die. They're going to bury me at this altar. Little did I know that almost that altar buried me. But in my mind, it's God's will. I'm going to be here. I'm staying here. And then it's gone. What do? Build a house on that property. This is where we're going to live. This is where we're going to retire. This is the end of we're going to live this out. Boom, it's gone. What do? It's God's will for me to have these children. And now they're moved out. Got other families. Can't get together on Christmas sometimes. I believed that was God's will, and now it's gone, and now I feel a hole. How do I have a hole where God's will was? The only answer is that wasn't God's will. Not that you missed God's will. That's just not the definition of God's will. Listen, if you're seeking your own will but letting him guide your steps today towards his will in the future, then the more you walk with him, the more you learn to love him, the more you communicate with him, then his will just happens in your life. The things, the stuff, the working, the living, the growing, the communicating, the relationships, all that blossoms. Have you ever heard that? That life is supposed to be an overflow of the relationship of God? You're supposed to have a relationship with God, and it's paramount. Everything else builds from that. Y'all never heard that? All right, go. You. That's how it's supposed to work. You and God have a relationship, and you walk daily in that relationship. He provides the other stuff in your life, and then you recognize it, not as God's will. You recognize it because you're just loving him, because you're interacting with him. And we can almost say it feels right, but we don't live on emotions either. But you walk with him, and he shows you those things. You see, when you're close enough to God, you don't have to say, well, I wonder if that's God. You ever had something happen, a voice inside of your head, not the one where you got to take a medicine for, but a voice, and you're like, I wonder if that's God. You ever said that? No? This is a participatory. You ever said that? Okay, because God speaks. The Bible is clear that God speaks to you. The problem is you and I don't hear as well because we got one ear to the ground listening for what we want. And then we've got an ear to the ground listening for what God wants. And we get confused. Because this one, for our stuff, is loud and it's strong. And the Bible says this one is a whisper. And you know what you got to do to hear this one? Shut your pie hole. You got to quit talking, even to yourself. Anybody talk to themselves? Okay, anybody on medicine for it? Okay, not talking to you then. That's fine. Yeah, you talk to yourself because stop. See, when you're walking and talking and listening and reading and dwelling with God, you can't hear yourself think. That's supposed to be good news Because your thoughts usually are stupid. They're selfish. I mean, the Bible tells you you are selfish beyond all measure. There is so much wrong inside of yourself that God has overcome that you and I just try to dig back out. I mean, we just go in and we dabble in our selfishness, we dabble in our pride, we dabble in our what we want versus what he wants. We just dabble, man. We dabble in what feels good. We dabble in what sounds good. We dabble, right? And when you're dabbling, you can't hear whispers because your dabblings are strong. So what is it? What is God's will for living? Let's just click onto one of them, his moral will. Actually, let's just jump back. Look at Romans 12:2 because I think we can gather this first. Look, I'm used to looking at a screen behind me. Y'all got cool stuff. Have y'all ever looked back there? You ever noticed whoever's up here is always looking back up there? Look back there. I get to cheat. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You've heard that, right? Be in the world, but don't be of the world, right? And you will be able to test and approve what? What? God's. Okay, can you put the English one up there? Evidently, it's still in Greek. No, it's not. God's will is his good, pleasing, and perfect. What? Do not conform to. So hold it. The antidote to not knowing God's will is to not participate like the world does. The patterns, the stuff that entertains them, the stuff that they're holding on to. Houses. The stuff that they're striving to get. Good jobs. The stuff that they put all of their hope in. Bank accounts. See, everything that you're taught from the world's perspective, you don't think that way. You still have them. You still get to participate there, but you don't stick your foundational truth on it. Because when you do, it gets ripped out from under you. Circa 2008. Anybody heard of 2008? What happened with our houses and our stock markets and all that stuff? Did you see all the suicides that happened after 2008? Because everybody had stuck all of their money into this portfolio, and then all of a sudden the portfolio was gone. And like, what am I supposed to do? I'm going to die. You were putting that money aside for to die. That's what you were doing. But then people were committing suicide because the hope had been pulled out because their hope was in their money. That's a pattern of the world. What is a pattern that's not of the world? Because that's what he's actually telling you. He's saying, okay, don't conform to those patterns, but be conformed somewhere else. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind into something else. And what would that be? Praying that he shows you what job it is, because when God shows you what job it is, it never goes away. Is that right? No. Praying where to live is because when God tells you where to live, it never goes away, right? Then what could it be? Oh, my Lord. Is it possible that it's actually in the book? For you to transform your mind into something that God tells you to transform it into, so that after you do that, you can then test and approve what God's will is. His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Is it possible? Go ahead. Okay, if it's there, then that means it has to be elsewhere so that you can get the answers to it. What do you think they are? Hold on, I'll give you one more. 2 Timothy 1:9. I forgot. For God saved us. I'm going to talk slow because you got to say the word with me. And called us to a holy life. How many of you all are holy? Holy crap. This is going to take a while. Okay. I love saying Greek words because it makes me sound like a good preacher. But that's not what makes a good preacher. But this one I got to give you. Hagios is the word holy, okay? Hagios, H-E-G-I-O-S. Look it up. Hagios means Hagio means set apart. Hagio means different. Okay, you see how the book all works together? It's really fun. when you start putting everything together in one big story, it's like of Jesus, and then it tells you stuff that you can go back to and look at. Okay. He called us to a set-apart life, to not be transformed by the world. That's what he called you to be. To not think like the world thinks. That's what he says. Not because of anything we've done, not because we know what we're doing, not because we're smart, not because we talk good, not because, none of that, but because of his own purpose, come on, and grace. Why do you need grace when you're living a holy life? This is where you say, because I'm stupid. That's right. Grace is for the stupid. The stupid decisions you make, the stupid things you say. How many's married? You two, right there. Yeah, you. The one going, not me, I ain't married. You're not married? Okay. We ain't got time. We'll get back. Anybody married over here? Y'all just hug on each other. That's good. I'm just being very cautious, making sure you're married. Has she ever, no, we'll do it the other way. Has he ever done anything stupid? Has he ever said anything stupid? I mean, I've never done that, so I just want to meet somebody who has. I just did it. See? We're good at it. I mean, we're just like, it comes right together. They're stupid. What do you have to have when he does something stupid? Yes. You have to be, and when I say you have to have grace so that you can give grace. See, because God is grace, and then God gives us his grace whenever we do something stupid. That's why it's there. The grace was given to us in Christ Jesus because we were already stupid and before the beginning of time. So here he has set us up. He has said, do not be transformed to the world. Do not be conformed to the world. Be transformed, change. You're already built like this. You woke up this morning wanting to do what the world did. Just sorry. Those of you who say, not me, nope, you're built this way. It's in your DNA. It's coded to live like the world is. You're coded to drive to church, pass a car that you think you should have because you deserve it more than the person that's driving it. You're coded to pull up to somebody and go, why don't you get a job instead of holding a sign? You're coded that way. You can't stop it until you transform your mind. And what does your mind get transformed to? Well, the Bible calls them, you're going to have to look this up for me, the fruits of the Spirit. This is not a sermon on the fruits of the Spirit, but this is what your mind and your body and your soul and your thinking gets transformed into. Give me one. Patience. Okay, one. I have ADD, and I have to stick with one. Patience. Okay, let's say this. Let's say that I'm searching for God's will in my life, and I'm looking for my wife. Okay? Or this is you. I'm not looking for my wife. She's right back there. You're looking for your wife, and you're looking for God's will. So you decide she's the one. You forgot to look for God's will. You forgot to ask all the questions, but that's okay. You've chosen that she's your wife. But now you're questioning it. Maybe she did something stupid and you don't have enough grace or whatever. It doesn't matter. And things are weird, right? Now, how many of you all believe, or this side note, how many of you all believe that God has one person picked out for you, for every single person? Every single person has another person and they have to find each other eventually. You believe that? Anybody else? Okay, now you got to keep your hands up because I got to ask you the questions. Happy feet, sorry, I got to stick with you. Now, do you know anybody who screwed that up? You do? Do you know multiple people who've screwed that up? How many? Let's say, do you know 5 people who married the 5 wrong people? You do? Okay, so your first theory is hugwash. Because they've screwed the entire rhythm, the algorithm. Y'all know what algorithms are. They screwed the entire algorithm for everybody. Because if they married the wrong person, then the person that they were supposed to marry married the wrong person, and then that person married the wrong person, and it's not the Bible, but some book tells us that we're seven steps away from the president, right? So all the way up to the president, everybody's screwed. If it's God's will that one person matches one person and they live forever, and that's all there is supposed to do it, but one person on the planet screws it up. Just one person screws that up. It's screwed for everybody. That's just how network marketing works. How about instead, How about instead it's God's will for you and me, and I'm not picking on you, I promise, and you, to have patience with the one that we're with. Oh, that's God's will? Uh-huh. See, God's will, his moral will, is for you to have patience with people. Everybody. All of you. Even the Democrats. See, that was a gauge of the room, baby. It was a gauge of the room. So now I'll say it, even with the Republicans. Everybody's got to have patience with everybody, right? You got to have patience. No matter what you are, no matter who you are, no matter what they are, you got to have patience. That's God's will. Give me the next one. Joy. I already heard it. Be ready for the third one, somebody. Okay, so let's say, have you moved lately, Cheyenne? Moved, like changed houses? When's the last time? 4 years. Close enough. Close enough. So was it God's will to move into that apartment, house, wherever it's at? You hope not. There you go. Absolutely, because sometimes you make the wrong decision, you get stuck in a house you don't really like. There's termites, there's bugs, there's whatever. But hey, what if it was just God's will for you to have joy in your life? And you can live anywhere when you have joy in your life. Do you know that? Yeah, it is. Because if we focus on God's will, then we're going to pick up on the fruits of the Spirit, and then we're going to start having joy. Any of y'all work at a job you wish you could quit? Oh, everybody works at a job they wish they could quit. Let me ask you, okay, we'll take a real quick poll. How many of you all think that, preaching's a good job for me? Okay. That's a quick question. That's 15%. That's 15 people out of 100. I'm doing great. Now, how many of you all think that if I'm going to preach, I should have integrity in my life? Seriously? Y'all will just listen to anybody. No, you should have integrity if you're going to stand up here and preach. Listen, I promise you, God would rather me work at 7-Eleven with integrity than the pastor without it. Absolutely. So wouldn't it be better to have God's will in integrity than in the job? No matter what job you're doing, just have integrity, just have patience, just have joy. Give me another one. Peace? You can't have peace if you're working at a job that you don't like. Yes, you can. Because if you're seeking God's will, he'll give you peace. And when you're walking with God, he'll give you peace. And when you're searching for God's heart, he'll give you peace. And when you start reading his book, he'll give you peace. Why? Because he promised it. And then you're going to start going to work going, I hate this job, but I'm really peaceful. And then people are going to start wondering what's wrong with you because they don't like the same job. But you've got peace. And when you have peace, it's magnetic. And people go, what's wrong with you? And you go, I don't know. And why do you say, I don't know? You don't. Because God said you're going to have a peace that nobody understands, including you. And you'll be like, oh, wow. So you mean I can just go to work and do what I'm supposed to do and make money for my family and provide for them, have peace, and still not like the job? Absolutely. You mean I can pull up to a location? My wife would rather live on the beach. Just newsflash. Have you seen her? I moved her to the woods. I'd rather live in the woods. But I managed to go to the beach to work and still had joy and peace sometimes. You're not going to do this every day. And she managed to get up and go to work as a nurse and come home to that and still have peace. You know why? Because she has a God inside of her that's so much bigger. Yes, we fight against it. Yes, not every day. No. Someday she pulls up there and goes, there's too many freaking bugs. Why would I live where there's bugs? Well, we just forget there's bugs on the beach. You see what? Give me another one. Huh? That's a fruit of the Spirit. I mean, I like it. Kindness. Okay, let's do kindness. Let's get to tolerance because if we, move it down, we'll get there. Kindness. How can that work? I know. Anybody been to Publix lately? No. Okay, where do you shop? Aldi's, because they are, is that where shopping's a pleasure? Oh, no, that's Publix too. Have y'all seen that stupid commercial where shopping's a pleasure and she's in the ice cream aisle and she's just like in Nirvana? I'm like, I've been to the ice cream aisle. It's not that exciting. It's weird. It's really weird, right? And you're like, what's going to happen at the end of this story? How about, now when I go to Publix, what is my main thought at Publix? Chicken. Well, that's pretty good. Okay, we're going anti-kindness here, right? It's too expensive, right? They could lower their prices, right? I just want to slap one of their employees because they own the place, right? It's their fault, right? Or, fruit of the Spirit, where should I shop? I don't know. How about I'm just kind to the people wherever I'm shopping? How about I'm kind to the person in front of me, kind to the person behind me, and I'm checking, my mask, and you can't, no, it's a totally different thing. Don't do it. My wife got in a fight in Publix. Don't talk about it. No, wasn't her fault. But fruits of the Spirit keeps you from having to worry about what grocery store you're going to and driving like a lunatic because you can't hear from God. Which way to turn? I literally used to live my life like that. I'm going to walk into the closet, right? And I'm going to wait until God tells me what to wear. I preached a sermon about this, and not one person came up and smacked me like an idiot because I was an idiot to say I'm standing in the closet waiting for God to tell me what clothes to wear because I thought that's how much decision-making you should give to God. Many times I just stood there because God said, you're a moron. The clothes are in front of you. Just pick one. It's okay, little buddy. Just pick one. Just now, should I have bought? Let's. This is hypothetical. Let's say there's I better say it good. A stripper on a pole. Let's just say that on the front of my shirt. Hypothetical, people. Don't have it. And I bought that shirt, and it's hanging in my closet. Do I have the free will to pick that shirt out and wear it? Yeah. Do you think God's going to say, don't wear that shirt? Nope. Nope. Do you think when I was walking through, who would sell that shirt? Spencer's. No, I'm not going to hate on Spencer's. You can still go. Yeah, I love Spencer's. Do you think when I was walking through Spencer's and I started to buy it, God said, don't buy that shirt? Nope. Absolutely not. That was my free will. But what did God say to me? Have self-control. See, if I had that, I wouldn't have bought it, right? Have kindness for your wife. Have integrity. See, if I had all those, I wouldn't have bought it in the first place. But His grace allowed me to buy it, absolutely, because He has permissive will. His grace would have allowed me to wear it, absolutely. And His grace would have allowed people to look at me and go, you're an idiot. Absolutely. Now, His grace would have also allowed me, now that's necessarily, maybe they weren't in God's will using a little kindness, but His grace would have also allowed me to get in a shouting match over why I can wear this shirt, over why it's just, there's nothing wrong with this shirt, there's nothing sticking out of the stripper yet, right? It's pre-dollar, right? So she's wearing everything, and I would have had this whole debate over why I can wear the stripper shirt, right? You've done it. I'm going way off the base, but you've done it with what you've decided is okay with you, and you've had the arguments. I can say that. I can do that. I can go there. You don't know my heart. Guess what? Yes, I do. You know why? Because God says when you exhibit the fruits of the Spirit, I can see your heart. Now, should I try to fix your heart? Cheyenne, should I tell you to quit wearing your stripper shirt? Probably not. Why? Not my job. Not my job. I can't coax Cheyenne into being a better God follower. And wearing the shirt's is not the God follower problem. Wearing the shirt is a heart problem, and I can't fix anybody's heart. You can, though. It's your heart. And when you walk and you talk to him and you love him and you seek him, then he shows you, don't buy the shirt because you just don't want to buy the shirt. Y'all do know it's not about a shirt, right? Some of y'all are stuck on shirt. I know it. Some of y'all are stuck on the word stripper. I know it. But listen, listen, I've met some. They exist. We can talk about them. It's okay. I've met some that shouldn't be. Let that one sink in. Are you seeking God's will? And are you seeking God's will correctly? 1 Corinthians 10:31. Well, what time? Yeah, we can quit. 1 Corinthians 10:31. And this is the drive it home. This is the verse that you've done before, but you don't know why you did it. You thought it was cool. So whatever you eat or drink, whatever you see that whatever? You could say where. Where I'm back into the shirt thing. Because this would keep me from wearing the shirt too. Whatever you do, whatever you drink, whatever you wear, wherever you go to work, wherever you live, whatever you drive, how far you have to walk, do it. What is God's will? That you live for his glory. You see, you and I have overcomplicated it way too much. His will is that you live for his glory. In everything you do, every single aspect, including picking out shirts in your closet, including going to work, including staying married, being married. Back to those relationships. You know that the divorce rate in America is, you know what the number is? High. That's good. Oh, man. Yeah. It used to be 50, now it's 72. Do you know what the divorce rate in the church is? 60. It's all going up. You know why it's all going up? Because you and I are not transforming our mind and thinking like them. We're still thinking like them. You see, we decide it's God's will to get a divorce. We decide that it's God's will not to have patience with the one that we marry. We made that choice. We decide that we're not going to have integrity when we go out on them. That's why. See, we're just as bad. Why? Because we haven't transformed our minds. We've not decided to be different. We've not decided to live a life that's more like him because we're not seeking him. Show me a person that's struggling with God's will, and I'll show you a person who's not spending enough time with him. No matter how much time they're spending, it's just not enough if they're struggling with his will, because his will reveal itself to you in the manner of just being more like him, not doing the stuff that he wants you to do. See, I sought God when I decided to go to nursing school. I sought him. I never said the words, I believe he wants me to go. But I sought him. And in the moments leading up to it, yes, things lined up, but I knew it was right because I had sought him. I knew it was okay to walk away from the beach and that church. One time, because I was scared and wanted to run away, I went back because my wife said we're going back. That's true. But I hadn't sought him. He didn't tell me I could go the first time. When we left the final time, I had sought him. And I knew it. There was no, is this really God's will? Yes, it was. I knew it was. I stood firm, and I said, we're packing, we're loading, we live in a camper now, we're hitching, and we're leaving. And I knew it. Just as I've been seeking God in these new areas of my life and what we can do online and ministries that we can do up here along with you at Nature Coast and outside of you, and just stuff, man. I'm just seeking him. And he's not showing me what to do. He's not. It's just not his character. He's showing me who he is. Here's the point. It's not what you do. The will is not a do, it's a who. He's the will. Seek him. Transform yourselves. And then live alongside him and dwell in him. The will just comes. The will just comes. Stand with me, can we? I don't know how you end here. You're going to come? I see she is. She's walking. Yeah, that's what I usually say. Uh-oh. Go.
I don't live with him anymore. I got married in June, and I haven't been able to watch his caffeine intake, so I'm sorry. I usually cut him off earlier, and I wasn't there, so he's been able to drink it the whole time. Thank you guys for welcoming my family. You can stand up. This is me dismissing you. You can stand up, stretch your legs. You're welcome. I say in the newsletter every Friday that thank you guys for welcoming me and welcoming me into your family, but this just made it even better. You guys welcoming my family. So thank you. You got a lot of stuff happening the next week. You got the cold weather shelter. You've got table talk. Join me in the newsletter. If you're not getting the newsletter, I'm offended personally now because I do it. No offense, Amy. But I do the newsletter. So join, get the newsletter, stay up to date, and then see y'all back here next week, 10 o'clock, and Brad will be back. So for all of you who hated today, don't worry. Brad will be back next week, 10 o'clock. But don't tell him. Don't tell him. But y'all have a good week.